He started with nothing, a poor boy from post-war Austria. But Arnold Schwarzenegger built his life rep by rep, turning struggle into strength and vision into victory. Some people are born into comfort. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born into challenge. Long before the fame, before the muscles, before the movies and politics, there was a young boy growing up in post-war Austria, in a home with no heat, no running water, and no promises. His father was strict, a military man who didn't understand dreams, and his mother worked to hold the family together. But inside that small house lived a boy who refused to accept limits. He once said, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths." That wasn't a quote he made up later for motivation. It was the law of his life. He learned early that pain was a teacher and hardship was a gym for the soul. Arnold was born in 1947 in a country still recovering from the war. Opportunities were scarce, optimism even scarcer. Most boys dreamed of stability, not success, but not him. When he saw a bodybuilding magazine for the first time, something ignited. The image of strong, sculpted men on glossy pages felt like a vision from another planet. He wanted that. He wanted to build not just his body, but his life, to sculpt himself into something greater than circumstance. He trained in basements with homemade weights, lifting iron until his hands bled. His father didn't understand it. "Why waste time with this nonsense?" he'd ask. But Arnold saw something bigger. He said, "I had a clear vision. I was going to be the best bodybuilder in the world." And that's the key word, vision. He didn't have money. He didn't have equipment. He didn't even have support. What he had was a picture in his mind, so vivid that it pulled him forward every day. When you have a vision that strong, obstacles become details. By his teens, he was sneaking out of his house to train, hiding bodybuilding magazines under his mattress like secret treasure. He would look at pictures of his heroes, Reg Park, Steve Reeves, and imagine himself standing next to them. If they can do it, why not me? He thought. That question, why not me, became his fuel. He joined the Austrian army at 18, where discipline became both his burden and his blessing. He trained harder than anyone, using every spare minute to work on his body. When he was supposed to be following orders, he'd sneak into the gym. Once, he even went AWOL, leaving the base to compete in a bodybuilding contest. He won that contest, but spent a week in military jail for disobeying orders. Yet even behind bars, he smiled, because he'd proven to himself that his dream was worth any punishment. He said later, "The mind is the limit. As long as the mind can envision the fact that you can do something, you can do it. As long as you really believe 100%. That mindset carried him far beyond Austria. At just 21, he moved to America with barely any English and almost no money. All he had was a gym bag, a dream, and an accent so thick that casting directors would later tell him he'd never make it in Hollywood. But America, to Arnold, was paradise, the land of possibility. He once said, "Everything I am, I owe to America. It's where my dreams became reality." But it wasn't handed to him. He built it, rep by rep, day by day. He lived in a small apartment with other bodybuilders, working odd jobs, eating cheap food, saving every penny for competition. When others partied, he practiced posing in the mirror for hours, perfecting each movement like choreography. He trained twice a day, 6 days a week, pushing his body past exhaustion. "You have to build the pain," he'd tell himself. "Pain is the price of progress." In 1970, his discipline paid off. He became the youngest man ever to win Mr. Olympia. The title catapulted him into bodybuilding legend, but he didn't stop there. While others celebrated, he was already thinking about the next goal. He said, "You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets." That's the essence of Arnold's philosophy. Relentless forward motion. Every goal achieved was just a new starting point. He dominated the bodybuilding world throughout the 1970s, winning Mr. Olympia 7 times. But even at the peak of his sport, he was planning his next transformation. He didn't want to be just a bodybuilder. He wanted to be an icon. He'd been watching Hollywood movies, studying the heroes on screen, and thought, "I can do that. I can be the next big action star." But once again, the world laughed. His accent was too heavy. His body was too big. His name was too strange. Casting agents told him bluntly, "You'll never make it." But if Arnold Schwarzenegger's life has one theme, it's this. Tell him he can't, and he'll show you he can. He enrolled in acting classes, learned to control his speech, and began networking with anyone who would talk to him. He was methodical, studying film structure, learning business, saving every dollar he earned from bodybuilding to invest in real estate. While others saw him as just muscles, he saw himself as a businessman in training. He said, "Money doesn't make you rich, discipline does." His first few movie roles were small and forgettable, but he never let ego or rejection break his momentum. He focused on preparation. When Conan the Barbarian came in 1982, he was ready. It was the perfect role: strength, intensity, charisma, everything he'd spent years building. The film exploded in success, and suddenly, the accent that Hollywood mocked became his signature. Then came The Terminator, a role that would make him immortal in cinema. When director James Cameron first heard Arnold say, "I'll be back," he didn't know those 3 words would become one of the most iconic lines in movie history. But they did, because Arnold delivered them with conviction, not arrogance. That's what audiences felt. The power of a man who believed every word he said. Overnight, the boy from Austria became one of the biggest stars in the world. But even at the height of fame, Arnold never stopped working. He'd wake before sunrise to train, to read, to study. "The worst thing I can be," he once said, "is the same as everybody else." He didn't chase fame, he chased growth. Every new chapter in his life, bodybuilding, acting, business, was driven by the same formula. Vision, hard work, consistency. He built his life the same way he built his body, 1 rep at a time. Arnold didn't just dream of success, he designed it. He used visualization techniques long before they became popular in self-help culture. He would close his eyes and picture the stage, the crowd, the victory. "You must see it before you can be it," he said. That's why his story resonates so deeply. It's not luck, it's not genetics. It's belief plus action repeated endlessly. But behind the triumph, there was always discipline. He never romanticized hard work. He respected it. "Everybody wants to be a champion," he said, "but not everybody wants to do the work." And that's the truth that separates dreamers from doers. Arnold's rise from a small-town boy with nothing to a global name isn't just a story about muscle. It's about mindset. He turned struggle into strength, rejection into drive, and vision into victory. And the most powerful part? He was just getting started. Success can seduce anyone into complacency. But Arnold Schwarzenegger never fell for that trap. He understood something most people never do. That comfort is the enemy of growth. Even when he was the biggest action star on the planet, he kept asking himself one question: what's next? After the Terminator, Predator, Commando, Total Recall, and True Lies, Arnold could have easily coasted through the rest of his life as a Hollywood icon. He was earning millions, adored by fans worldwide, and had nothing left to prove. But that's never been how his mind worked. He once said, "You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets." For him, achievement wasn't a finish line. It was a habit. While audiences saw explosions and muscles on screen, Arnold was quietly building empires behind the scenes. He invested early in real estate, turning modest savings from bodybuilding into millions before his first movie even hit theaters. He bought apartment buildings, managed properties, and reinvested every dollar. By the time Hollywood began paying him blockbuster salaries, he was already financially free. That's what made him different. He didn't wait to be discovered. He created his own safety net. He explained it once in an interview. "You can't sleep on success. You must plan for tomorrow while you're winning today." Those words reflect his discipline, always one step ahead, never satisfied, always building. But even beyond business, Arnold's ambitions were bigger. He wanted to make a difference, not just in entertainment, but in the world. He had come from a small European village to America, a country he often described as the land that gave me everything. Now, he wanted to give something back. In 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger shocked the world when he announced his candidacy for governor of California. The media called it a joke. Critics dismissed him as an actor playing politician. But as history would prove, they underestimated him again. Arnold didn't run to play a role. He ran to serve. He campaigned tirelessly, shaking hands in small towns, listening to people's problems, and promising reform. His charisma, discipline, and optimism resonated deeply with voters. Against all odds, he won, becoming the governor of California. He said after the victory, "You can't just sit there and complain. You have to do something about it." That line captured his entire life's philosophy. Don't wait for change, be the change. Transitioning from Hollywood to politics wasn't easy. Critics scrutinized his every move. Every decision was judged, every word analyzed. But Arnold handled the pressure like he always did, with focus and resilience. He worked across party lines, pushed for environmental policies, balanced budgets, and promoted fitness programs for youth. He didn't chase popularity, he chased progress. He often said, "I wasn't elected to be loved, I was elected to lead." His time in office wasn't perfect. No leader's ever is. He made mistakes, faced backlash, and endured political storms. But through it all, he showed the same quality that defined him since childhood: persistence. He never blamed others, never quit, never hid. When he left office, he didn't call it retirement. He called it another beginning. Arnold returned to acting, but with a new perspective. He had seen the world from both sides, the glamour of Hollywood and the grit of government. He had learned that true power isn't fame, it's influence. The ability to move people toward a better future. As he entered his later years, Arnold turned his energy toward mentorship and philanthropy. He began speaking to students, entrepreneurs, and athletes about mindset. He said, "If you want to turn a vision into reality, it takes work, and it takes believing in yourself." His speeches became viral, not because of fancy words, but because of the truth in them. Every story he told was rooted in lived experience. From the cold gym floors of Austria to the governor's mansion in California. He's often described as the embodiment of the American dream, but Arnold corrects that. "It's not the American dream," he says. It's the human dream. It's what happens when you refuse to give up. Even after decades of success, he keeps learning. He studies daily, reads constantly, and trains every morning. If you rest, he says, you rust. That's his mantra. Movement is medicine. Whether in his 70s or his 20s, his routine hasn't changed. Wake up early, exercise, plan, execute, repeat. His discipline isn't about vanity anymore. It's about vitality. He's also brutally honest about failure. He doesn't hide his mistakes. Business losses, personal challenges, public scandals. He says, you can't be afraid of embarrassment. You can't grow without mistakes. That humility has kept him relatable even after a lifetime of fame. His speeches and interviews have become roadmaps for resilience. He breaks life down into what he calls the 6 rules of success. 1. Trust yourself. 2, 3. Break some rules. 4, 5. Don't be afraid to fail. 6, 7. Ignore the naysayers. 8, 9. Work like hell. 10, 11. Give something back. 12. Simple rules, but lived every day. He teaches that success isn't about having time, it's about making time. That the world doesn't owe you anything, but you owe yourself effort. That dreams are free, but discipline is priceless. Arnold often reflects on the mindset that carried him through every chapter. When people say no, I hear yes. He smiles. That attitude, stubborn optimism, is what separates him from almost everyone else. It's not arrogance. It's certainty built from preparation. He also emphasizes giving back. Through the After School All-Stars Foundation, he's provided programs for thousands of children, offering mentorship, education, and hope. He speaks at climate summits, funds environmental initiatives, and advocates for renewable energy. We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, he says. We borrow it from our children. Arnold's legacy isn't just the trophies, the movies, or the political titles. It's the example, the living proof that limits exist only for those who believe in them. He's faced every kind of obstacle, poverty, rejection, cultural barriers, scandal. And yet, every time, he reinvented himself. He shows that success isn't a straight line. It's a staircase built from mistakes, faith, and persistence. What's most remarkable about him is how grounded he's remained. Ask him about his proudest moment, and he doesn't mention awards or records. He says, "It's when I see people inspired by my story to change their own." That's the real reward. Legacy through impact. Arnold's story teaches us that greatness isn't genetic, it's earned. You don't need to be born extraordinary, you just need to outwork ordinary. His life is a reminder that success requires sacrifice, but it also promises freedom, the freedom to live on your own terms. He says, don't just dream, plan. Don't just wish, work. Don't just hope, hustle. Those aren't slogans, they're strategies. Every generation needs someone to prove that anything is possible. Arnold did that, again and again. The poor boy from Austria became a bodybuilding champion, a movie superstar, a political leader, and a symbol of perseverance. But above all, he became an example of what happens when belief meets relentless effort. So what can we learn from Arnold Schwarzenegger? That discipline is stronger than doubt. That vision is louder than fear. That the world can tell you no 1,000 times. And it only takes one yes from yourself to change everything. In the end, his story isn't about bodybuilding or politics or fame. It's about building yourself from the inside out. He once said, "You can't be paralyzed by fear of failure or you'll never push yourself." And that's the truth of his life. Every failure became foundation. Every challenge became fuel. Every doubt became data for a comeback. Arnold's life is proof that success is not luck, it's labor. It's waking up earlier, trying harder, and believing longer than anyone else. So when you're tired, when the road feels endless, when the dream feels too far, remember his story. Remember the boy who started with nothing but a vision and turned it into everything. Because the secret isn't strength. The secret is stamina, the courage to keep going long after others stop. And that's what makes Arnold Schwarzenegger not just a legend, but a lesson.